Trident Studios is very much at the heart of British rock history. From the end of the 60s and right through the 70s, Trident was at the vanguard of recording technology and helped produce hits for the likes of David Bowie, Queen, Elton John, T-Rex, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. This is the story of its role in helping shape the sound of a generation and most people's record collections. Trident Studios was the brainchild of brothers Barry and Norman Sheffield. Norman had previously been a drummer with the band The Hunters, who had a hit in 1960 with Teen Scene. Following this, he was able to set up his own record shop in Waltham Cross that had a space above it to record demos for local bands. He was quickly taken in by the whole recording process and wanted to further it. With the help of investors and his brother Barry, they managed to get a space right in the middle of the Soho area of London that was previously an engraving works. The studio had two main intentions right from the start. The first was to create a more relaxed environment compared to the established studios of the day, so no lab coats and mic placement protocols. And secondly, to have the most up-to-date recording facilities that were currently available. This was evident with Trident being the first studio in Europe to have 8-track recording capabilities. The studio was unveiled in March 1968 and got off to a flying start with its first #1 hit coming just a few months later, the Man for Man record, My Name is Jack. Word of this brand new state-of-the-art facility quickly spread, and it wasn't long before the head of A&R at Apple Records, Peter Asher, called to book a session for their new artist, James Taylor, who ended up recording his first album there. Paul McCartney then paid a visit when producing Mary Hopkins for her hit Those Were the Days. After feeling hemmed in at Abbey Road due to a TV special being filmed there, the Beatles themselves decided they wanted to try out this new relaxed, high-tech studio to work on their next single, Hey Jude. George Martin also came along as producer, but initially thought the facility was a little bit rough and ready. One of the reasons traditional studios like Abbey Road took so long to embrace new technology was that they would spend months testing new equipment before putting it into daily use, whereas Trident just plugged everything straight in and went for it. Because of this, some things did need to be ironed out on the fly. With the new Ampex tape machines being American, they were designed to be used with lower voltages, and the electrical setup wasn't quite right by the time the Beatles were in to record Hey Jude, meaning that the tape played back too fast, although it was later corrected. Paul McCartney distinctly remembers an incident during the recording of Hey Jude at Trident. Although I'd just begun a take, Ringo walked out to go to the toilet and I hadn't noticed. The toilet was only a few yards from his drum booth, but it'd gone past my back and I still thought he was sat there at his drums in position. I started what was the actual take of Hey Jude, and it goes on for hours before the drums come in. And while I was doing it, I suddenly felt Ringo tiptoeing past my back rather quickly, trying to get to his drums. And just as he got there, boom, his timing was absolutely impeccable. So a light bulb goes off in my head and I thought, this is the take, and I put a little bit more into it. What just happened was magic. So we did that and we made a pretty good record, I think. The Beatles used Trident again for some White Album tracks, such as Dear Prudence, but later went back to Abbey Road for the most part. They did use Trident for various solo projects though, like George's All Things Must Pass album, Ringo's single It Don't Come Easy, and John's Cold Turkey. Incidentally, from 1968 until 74, Trident used 4 very large Lockwood monitoring speakers in the control room. Clients were always impressed by them, and Paul remembers, words can't describe the pleasure of listening back to the final mix of Hey Jude on those 4 giant speakers, which dwarfed everything else in the room. With the Beatles giving the studio kudos, it became the new place to be. Artists such as the Rolling Stones, T-Rex, America, the Bee Gees, Elton John all recorded there in this period, making it one of the most prolific studios around. One artist who was most associated with the studio around this time was David Bowie, who recorded 5 massive albums there, from Space Oddity in 1969 through to Aladdin Sane in 1973. There is a blue plaque at the building now to commemorate this. He even invited Lou Reed over to produce his album Transformer in 72, and Bowie was also one of the first artists to record on the new Trident A-Range console. As 8 tracks gave way to 16 and then 24, the studio needed a new bespoke mixing desk. They had been using the excellent Sound Techniques desk until then, so they needed something of at least equal quality. But the existing manufacturers of the day like Neve were unable to meet their demands, so with Chief Engineer Malcolm Toft in charge, they set about designing their own desk to suit exactly what they and their clients needed. The Trident A-Range console was the result of their endeavours, and it went on to be hugely popular due to its layout and in particular its EQ section that had been honed by years of experience in what was exactly needed to make modern rock records. The venture was so successful that a company was launched to make these consoles for other studios, and they're still revered to this day. Another huge band associated with Trident were Queen. Norman Sheffield recalled, "I was sitting in my office one day in 1971 when I got a call from my brother down in the studio. 'Norman, come down and listen to this,' he said." John Anthony, Trident's A&R man, had discovered a band called Smile, and the three of them recognised they were onto something and agreed to offer them a deal, whereby they would get unlimited recording time at off-peak hours. They'd also manage their affairs and search for a record deal on the basis of these recordings. With no apparent takers for the band, Trident decided to set up their own label to release a record themselves. And, with a quick change of name to Queen, their career was launched. Their self-titled debut album was a result of meticulous attention to recording details, like precision harmonies, which is something they would be renowned for throughout their career. 2 more albums followed, with Queen 2 and Sheer Heart Attack, that contained the huge hit Killer Queen. As the band enjoyed their success, they weren't necessarily seeing the money yet. Caught in the pipeline of performing rights payments and the initial investment from Trident, Freddie in particular was getting impatient, and at one stage, according to Norman, demanded a grand piano be bought for him. After refusing and explaining to Freddie that he needed to wait just a bit longer, Freddie actually replied, "No, I'm not prepared to wait any longer. I want it all, and I want it now." The band then decided to sever all ties with Trident, and a messy situation finally ended in a financial agreement, but not without the band tearing into Norman on the next record, Night at the Opera. The song Death on Two Legs contains vicious lyrics penned by Freddie and aimed at Norman. Libel suits were launched and the relationship ended very badly, although they did reconcile many years later. Another big star worth mentioning wasn't an artist at all, but rather an instrument that was ever present at the studio. The C. Bechstein piano that had been at the studio from the beginning had actually been rented from the London music shop Samuel's. The piano can be heard on countless hit records: Hey Jude, Martha My Dear, Without You, Your Song, Tiny Dancer, Space Oddity, Get It On, I Don't Like Mondays, Perfect Day, and You're So Vain are just a few songs where it features prominently. The instrument even then was over 100 years old, and has been described as the best rock and roll piano ever. It was notoriously difficult to play due to its stiff hammers then, but because of this, and how hard you needed to hit it, it produced a bright and crystal clear sound that became famous and sought after. The studio did finally purchase the piano from Samuel's, although when moving it later on, the cradle holding it gave way and the piano was sent crashing into a heap on the floor. It was rebuilt and later sold at auction for £200,000, but its destination wasn't revealed. Despite all this success, the studio was in financial difficulties by 1981, and closed briefly before being purchased by its senior engineer Stephen Shaw and a group of investors. Since 1981, the studios have undergone multiple name changes and ownership transitions, but the original building still remains, with the blue plaque marking its importance and musical legacy.